You ever have that moment when something so small, so stupid, just doesn't sit right? For Sarah, it was a carton of milk. Organic whole milk. Sounds harmless, right? Except her husband James, Dr. James, the surgeon everyone adored, was lactose intolerant. Had been their entire marriage. 13 years. So why? Why was there a receipt for milk he couldn't drink? That question, it didn't just unravel a lie. It exposed an entire life. A second wife. A whole daughter. 8 years of deception hiding in plain sight. If you've ever trusted someone completely, if you've ever been blindsided by betrayal, you need to hear this. Because what Sarah went through, it'll change how you see everything. Let me tell you how it all fell apart. Sarah wasn't the paranoid type. That's important. She wasn't the woman who checked phones or interrogated her husband about late nights. She trusted James. 13 years of marriage. And she believed she knew they were solid. So when she found that grocery receipt crumpled at the bottom of his gym bag, she almost threw it away. Almost. But something stopped her. Organic whole milk. $4.79. It sat there on the thin paper like a whisper, like a crack in glass you can't unsee. James was lactose intolerant, violently so. The kind that sends you running if you so much as look at dairy. They'd been buying almond milk for over a decade. So who was this milk for? Sarah stood in their kitchen, her kitchen, the one she'd painted sage green because James said it calmed him after long shifts and felt the floor tilt. Maybe he grabbed it by mistake, she told herself, but her hands were shaking. She pulled out her phone, checked the date on the receipt. Last Tuesday. The day he said he worked a double shift. The store? Morrison's Market. She didn't recognize it. She Googled it. 32 miles away, in a neighborhood called Meadowbrook, a place James had never mentioned. Not once. Her chest tightened. The kind of tightness that comes before your body knows what your brain is about to figure out. She sat down at the kitchen table, receipt in hand, and stared at it until the letters blurred. That's when the thread started to unravel. Sarah didn't sleep that night. She lay next to James, his back turned, breathing steady like always, and felt like a stranger in her own bed. The next morning, she started pulling, gently, carefully, the way you pull a thread when you don't want the whole thing to unravel yet. "Babe," she said over coffee, keeping her voice light. "Where's Morrison's Market? I saw it mentioned somewhere." James didn't even look up from his phone. "Never heard of it." Liar. The word hit her like a slap, because he didn't hesitate, didn't pause, just lied, smooth as butter. She smiled, nodded, poured him more coffee, and when he left for the hospital, she got in her car. 32 miles. She drove them in silence, hands gripping the wheel so tight her knuckles ached. Meadowbrook was nice. Tree-lined streets, playgrounds, the kind of neighborhood where people raised families. She parked across from Morrison's and waited. For what? She didn't know. A sign? Proof she was losing her mind? Then she saw it. James's car, that black Audi he was so proud of, parked outside a coffee shop 2 blocks down. Her heart stopped. She watched him walk out tall, handsome, that same confident stride holding 2 cups. He crossed the street, walked up to a pale yellow house with a swing set in the yard, and a woman opened the door. She was beautiful, younger, maybe. She smiled at James like he hung the moon. He handed her a coffee, kissed her, not a peck, a real kiss. Then a little girl ran out, pigtails bouncing. She threw her arms around James's legs, and he scooped her up like it was the most natural thing in the world. Sarah couldn't breathe, couldn't move. She sat in her car 30 feet away and watched her husband, play house with a family that wasn't hers. She didn't cry. Not yet. The tears would come later. Right then, she just felt hollow. Like everything she'd built her life on had been a stage, and she'd been the only one who didn't know it was a performance. Sarah drove home on autopilot. She doesn't remember the 32 miles back, Doesn't remember parking, walking inside, sitting down. All she remembers is the silence. That thick, suffocating silence that fills a house when you realize you don't know the person you share it with. She could have confronted him right then. Could have screamed, thrown things, burned it all down. But Sarah? She's smart, meticulous. So she did what any woman with a shattered heart and a sharp mind would do. She started digging. Bank statements first. She logged into their joint account, the one James always said he barely used because the hospital paid him directly. Lies. All lies. There were transfers. Regular ones. Every 2 weeks. $5,000 sent to an account she'd never seen before. Her hands trembled as she clicked deeper. Venmo, PayPal, Cash App, trails everywhere. Groceries, utility bills, preschool tuition. Preschool tuition. She opened their tax returns, the ones James always filed because taxes stressed her out. And there it was, hidden in plain sight. Parker Consulting, LLC. A business she'd never heard of. Registered to an address in Meadowbrook. That address, the pale yellow house with the swing set. James had been filing their taxes from her house for 8 years. 8 years. Sarah's stomach lurched. She ran to the bathroom and threw up everything inside her. Heaved until there was nothing left but bile and betrayal. When she finally looked up, she caught her reflection in the mirror. Mascara streaked, eyes red and hollow. She barely recognized herself. "Who am I?" she whispered. Because the woman staring back, she wasn't the Sarah who trusted blindly, who believed in forever. That Sarah was gone, murdered by a grocery receipt and a shell company. She wiped her mouth, steadied herself, and then she got angry. James came home that night like nothing happened, kissed her cheek, asked what was for dinner. Sarah served him pot roast, his favorite, smiled when he complimented it, laughed at his story about a difficult surgery. She played the role perfectly, because she needed time to gather everything, time to make sure when she burned his world down, there'd be nothing left but ash. Over the next 2 weeks, Sarah became a ghost in her own life. She hired a private investigator, a woman named Rita, with kind eyes and a no-nonsense attitude. Rita didn't ask questions, just nodded when Sarah handed her the address. The photos came back 3 days later. James, walking hand in hand with her, the other woman, pushing a stroller, shopping for groceries, playing at the park, living a whole life. There were school permission slips with his signature, birthday party invitations addressed to Daddy, a family portrait hanging in their living room, James, the woman, and the little girl, all smiling like a magazine ad. Rita's report was thorough, brutal. The other woman's name was Amy. She was a nurse. They'd been together for 8 years. The daughter's name was Lily. She was 7. 7 years old. Sarah did the math. James had started this other family 5 years into their marriage, while Sarah was planning their anniversary trip to Cancun, while she was talking about maybe trying for kids. While she was loving him, she sat at her kitchen table, that sage green kitchen, and read every page, every receipt, every lie documented in black and white. And when she was done, she didn't cry, she smiled. Because now she had everything. James walked in around 9, smelling like cologne she didn't recognize. "Hey babe, sorry I'm late. Emergency surgery ran long." Sarah looked up. "Did it?" He froze. Something in her voice. Something sharp. "Yeah," he said slowly. "Why?" She slid a folder across the table. "Because that's funny. The hospital says you clocked out at 4. His face went white. James stared at the folder like it was a bomb. "Sarah, what is this?" She leaned back in her chair. Calm. Too calm. The kind of calm that comes right before a hurricane. "Open it." His hands shook as he did. The first photo slid out. Him, Amy, Lily, all 3 of them at the park, ice cream cones in hand, smiling. He looked up. His mouth opened, closed, opened again. I can explain. Explain? The word came out like a whip crack. Sarah stood, and suddenly all that calm shattered. Explain what, James? Explain Parker Consulting? Explain the 8 years you've been playing daddy to a child I didn't know existed? Explain how you filed our taxes from her address. Sarah, please. Explain the milk. She was screaming now, all the rage, all the heartbreak it erupted. You couldn't even be careful enough to hide a damn grocery receipt. Organic whole milk, James. You're lactose intolerant! How stupid do you think I am? He reached for her. She recoiled like he was poison. Don't touch me. James sank into a chair, head in his hands. And then he said the worst thing he could have possibly said. I love you both. Silence. Sarah laughed. A hollow, broken sound. You love us both. Yes. He looked up, eyes wet, like he was the victim. Sarah, I never meant for this to happen. I love you. I love her. I couldn't choose. So you chose to lie? Her voice cracked. You chose to build a fantasy where you got to have everything while I got, what? Half a husband? Half a life? It's not like that. Then what's it like, James? Enlighten me. She crossed her arms, tears streaming now. Tell me how you justified tucking in her daughter every night while telling me you were too tired to talk about having kids. Tell me how you kissed her goodnight and then came home and kissed me with the same mouth. He had no answer, just sat there, crying. Sarah wiped her face. Her voice went cold. Get out. Sarah, get out. Pack a bag. Go to your other wife, because you don't live here anymore. He stood slowly, broken. Where? Where do I go? She smiled through her tears. Vicious. I don't know, James. Flip a coin. Hey, if you're still with me, if your heart is breaking for Sarah and Amy right now, drop a heart emoji in the comments. Let me know you're feeling this. Sarah didn't sleep. How could she? The bed felt massive, empty, haunted by 13 years of lies. By sunrise, she'd made a decision. Amy deserved to know. It took 2 days to work up the courage. Sarah sat in her car outside that pale yellow house, hands gripping the wheel. What do you even say? Hi, I'm the first wife? It sounded insane. Like a bad movie. But she couldn't leave Amy in the dark. Wouldn't. She knocked. Amy answered, Lily on her hip. She was prettier up close. Warm brown eyes, natural hair pulled back. She looked tired, like motherhood had aged her gently. Can I help you? Amy asked, polite but cautious. Sarah's throat tightened. I'm Sarah, James's wife. Amy blinked. I'm sorry. What? His wife. Sarah pulled out her phone, showed her the marriage certificate, their wedding photo. We've been married 13 years. The color drained from Amy's face. She set Lily down. Baby, go play in your room. Her voice shook. When Lily was gone, Amy just stared. That's not possible. We've been together for 8 years. We have a daughter. I know, Sarah's voice broke. I saw her. She's beautiful. Amy backed against the wall, sliding down until she sat on the floor. Oh my God. Oh my God. Sarah sat beside her. 2 women, 2 victims, both destroyed by the same man. He told me he was divorced, Amy whispered. Said it was messy, that his ex was. He made you sound crazy? Sarah finished bitterly. Let me guess. He said, I took everything in the divorce. That's why he couldn't afford much at first. Amy nodded, tears falling. The LLC, Parker Consulting. He said it was for tax purposes. For us. Our future. He told me the same thing. They sat in silence, the weight of it crushing them both. Finally, Amy spoke. How did you find out? Milk, Sarah said, laughed darkly. A receipt for organic whole milk. Amy covered her mouth. I asked him to grab some on his way home last week for Lily's cereal. They looked at each other. And despite everything, despite the pain, the betrayal, the absurdity, they both started laughing. Hysterical, broken laughter that dissolved into sobs. Because what else could they do? Two women, same script, same lies, same love, same man. What do we do? Amy whispered. Sarah reached over, took her hand. We burn it down. They met at a coffee shop. Neutral ground. Sarah, Amy, and James. He walked in looking like he hadn't slept in days. Good. He shouldn't sleep. He sat down across from them, eyes darting between the two women. His two wives. His two lives. Colliding. I'm sorry, he started. I'm so... Stop! Sarah's voice cut like a blade. We're not here for apologies. Amy leaned forward, her voice steady despite the tears. We're here for answers, real ones. James looked down, ashamed, pathetic. When? Sarah demanded. When did you decide we weren't enough? When did you look at me, at us, and think, I can do better if I just double up? It wasn't like that. Then what was it like? Amy's voice cracked. She never yelled. But this broke her. I have a daughter, James. A little girl who thinks you're her hero, who waits by the window every night for Daddy to come home. What do I tell her? He flinched. Amy. No. She shook her head, tears streaming. You don't get to Amy me. You don't get to use that soft voice you use when Lily has nightmares. You made me believe in us. In you. I turned down a job in Atlanta because you said we were building something here. Was any of it real? Silence. Sarah watched him squirm, watched him realize there was no right answer, no smooth talk, no charm that could save him. I loved you both, he whispered. I still do. Love? Sarah's laugh was bitter. You don't know what that word means. Love is honest. Love doesn't file taxes from another woman's address. Love doesn't let someone plan a future that doesn't exist. Amy pulled out a folder, slid it across the table. These are custody papers. You get supervised visitation every other weekend. That's it. James's face crumpled. You can't. We can. Sarah slid her own folder across. And these are divorce papers. I'm taking the house, half your pension, and every dollar you funneled into that fake company. Sarah, please. You're done. Her voice was ice. Done lying. Done playing God with people's lives. Done pretending you're the victim here. Amy stood first, looked down at him with something like pity. I hope it was worth it, James. I really do. Sarah stood too. She didn't look back. They walked out together. Two women who were supposed to be enemies. Two women who became the only people in the world who truly understood. Outside, Amy turned to her. What now? Sarah took a breath. The sun was setting, painting the sky in shades of orange and gold. Now, we heal. Amy left Meadowbrook 3 months later. She couldn't stay. Not in that house. Not in that neighborhood where everyone knew her as James's girlfriend, and Lily as that sweet little girl. The whispers were too loud. The pity too suffocating. Sarah helped her pack. It felt right. Strange, but right. They worked in silence mostly, folding Lily's clothes, wrapping dishes in newspaper. But sometimes they'd find something, a photo, a birthday card signed Love, James, and they'd just stop, stare at it, remember when they believed. You think he ever really loved us? Amy asked quietly, holding a framed picture of James and Lily at the zoo. Sarah paused, thought about it, really thought. I think he loved the idea of us, she finally said. He loved coming home to me after playing happy family with you, loved the thrill of keeping it all secret, loved being the hero in 2 different stories. Amy set the frame down. That's not love. No, Sarah agreed. It's not. They loaded the U-Haul in the driveway. Lily ran around the yard one last time, chasing butterflies, oblivious to why they were leaving. Amy had told her they were going on an adventure, starting fresh. Kids are resilient like that. They believe in fresh starts. Before Amy drove away, she hugged Sarah, tight, the kind of hug that says everything words can't. "Thank you," Amy whispered, "for finding me, for not hating me." Sarah pulled back, held her face. "You didn't do anything wrong. We didn't. He did." Amy nodded, tears falling. "You gonna be okay?" Sarah smiled, sad but real. "Eventually." "You?" "Eventually." They stood there, two women bonded by betrayal, learning to stand on their own. Amy climbed into the U-Haul. Lily waved from the passenger seat, grinning. Sarah waved back. And then they were gone. Sarah stood in that driveway, the one she'd helped pack, the home of a life that was never supposed to exist, and felt something shift. Relief, grief, closure. She got in her car, drove those 32 miles one last time, and when she pulled into her own driveway, her house, in her name now, she sat for a moment. The sage-green kitchen waited inside, empty, quiet. But it was hers. All hers. For the first time in 13 years, Sarah felt like she could breathe. 18 months later, Sarah almost didn't recognize herself in the mirror anymore. Not because she looked different, though she did. Softer somehow, lighter. But because the woman staring back, she had her power back. Therapy helped. God, did it help? Twice a week at first, then once. Dr. Monroe didn't let her off easy. Made her sit with the anger, the shame, the embarrassing, awful truth that part of her still mourned the lie. "You're not mourning him," Dr. Monroe said once. "You're mourning who you thought he was. That's different. That's allowed." Sarah cried in that office more than she'd cried anywhere else. Ugly, snotty, soul-deep sobs. But each one felt like release, like poison leaving her body. She started small, repainting the kitchen. Not sage green anymore, James's calming color. Now it was sunflower yellow, bright, defiant, hers. She joined a book club, made friends who didn't know her as that woman whose husband had 2 families, just Sarah, who laughed too loud at wine nights and ugly cried over romance novels. She went on dates, terrible ones at first. One guy talked about his ex the entire time. Another asked if she'd trust again on the first date. She deleted the apps twice. But then she met Marcus. He was patient, kind, a high school teacher with terrible dad jokes and a smile that felt safe. He didn't push, didn't pry, just existed beside her, let her set the pace. Their third date, he asked about her past. Sarah hesitated, then told him. Everything. The milk, the double life, the divorce. She waited for him to run. Instead, Marcus reached across the table, took her hand. "That must have been hell," he said simply. "I'm sorry you went through that." No pity, no judgment, just empathy. Sarah exhaled, squeezed his hand back. "I'm still figuring out how to trust again," she admitted. "It's hard." "I'd be worried if it wasn't," Marcus said. "Take your time. I'm not going anywhere." And for the first time since that grocery receipt, Sarah felt something she thought was dead. Hope. She still texted Amy sometimes. Quick check-ins. Photos of Lily starting 2nd grade in Atlanta. Updates about James, who'd spiraled after losing everything, jumped from job to job, apartment to apartment. Sarah didn't feel sorry for him, but she didn't hate him either. Hate required energy she didn't want to give. One night, Amy called. "I met someone," she said, voice shy. "He's good with Lily, patient. Nothing like, 'I'm happy for you,'" Sarah interrupted. "Meant it. You deserve that." "So do you." Sarah smiled, looking at the sunflower yellow walls. "I'm getting there." They talked for an hour, 2 women who'd been shattered, who were learning to build themselves back, not the same, but stronger. When Sarah hung up, She sat in her kitchen, her home, her life. Whole. Finally whole. Sarah stood in her sunflower yellow kitchen on a random Tuesday morning, coffee in hand, and realized something. She was happy. Not the performative kind. Not the everything's fine kind she'd worn like armor during her marriage. Real happiness. The kind that sits quiet in your chest and doesn't need an audience. Marcus was coming over later. They were cooking dinner together, his idea. He'd insisted on teaching her his grandmother's jambalaya recipe, said it was non-negotiable if they were going to keep seeing each other. She laughed thinking about it, about how easy it felt, how light. Her phone buzzed. Amy. Lily asked about her dad today. First time in months. Told her the truth that he made mistakes, but we still love her completely. She said okay and went back to her dolls. Kids, man. Sarah typed back, "You're an amazing mom. She's lucky to have you. We're both lucky we found each other, even if it was the worst way possible." Sarah stared at that message, thought about that day outside Morrison's Market, the way her whole world had tilted, the way discovering the truth had felt like dying. But here she was, alive, thriving, free. She'd learned something in those 18 months, something nobody tells you about betrayal. The truth doesn't destroy you. The lie does. Living in James's beautiful lie had been killing her slowly. The truth, as brutal, as devastating as it was, had set her free. Free to build something real, something hers. Sarah walked to her living room, looked at the photos on the wall. Her and her book club friends, her and Marcus at a comedy show, her sister's kids, Amy and Lily at the beach. No, James, not one photo. Not because she was bitter, but because he didn't belong in her story anymore. He was a chapter, a painful, necessary chapter, but not the whole book. She grabbed her journal, Dr. Monroe's idea, and wrote, "I don't know if I believe in closure, but I believe in new beginnings. I believe in women who hold each other up. I believe my intuition was right all along. I just had to be brave enough to listen. And I believe that being loved halfway isn't love at all. I deserve whole. I deserve real. I deserve truth." She closed the journal, smiled. The doorbell rang. Marcus, early as always, holding flowers and a bag of groceries. "Ready to make some magic?" he asked, grinning. Sarah opened the door wider. "Let him in. Let the light in." "Yeah," she said. "I really am." Sarah thought that grocery receipt was the end of her story. Turns out, it was just the beginning. She lost a husband, but she gained herself. She lost a marriage, but she found her strength. She lost a beautiful lie, but she found an honest life. And Amy? She's thriving in Atlanta, building a life where Lily knows what real love looks like, the kind that doesn't hide, the kind that doesn't deceive. Two women, one unimaginable betrayal, but they didn't let it define them. They let it refine them. So if you're watching this and your heart is broken, if you've been lied to, betrayed, or made to feel like you're not enough, hear me. You are not the lie someone told you. You are the truth you choose to live. Sarah chose truth, even when it hurt, especially when it hurt. And on the other side of that pain, she found freedom. If you enjoyed this story, if it touched you, if you know someone who needs to hear this message, share it with them. Send it to the friend who's questioning everything, to the sister who keeps making excuses for him, to anyone who needs permission to choose themselves. Hit that like button, subscribe, and drop a comment telling me, have you ever been in a similar situation? Your story matters, your healing matters. And just like Sarah, you're going to be okay. Until next time, good night.